Buenas noches, buenos días, buenas tardes. Otro episodio de La Condena. En este van como 4 o 5 meses, pero este va a estar bueno. I guarantee it. Mucho tiempo, muchas cosas, mucho trabajo, mucha viaje, mucho cosas personales, muchos eventos trascendentes y muchas cosas nuevas que hablar. Entonces empecemos por ahí. Um, I usually do this in Spanish, but there's a lot of people that always ask me, "Hey, you say you got a podcast, but you never tell me. Tell me about it. Tell me a little bit about what it is that you talk about." So, as I said before, I started this in Easter of 2020. Well, in the middle of the pandemic. Was bored, needed a way like everybody else to just talk and express myself. So I started it, and I started talking about something dumb like why are the bunnies are there bunnies in Easter and wasn't about Jesus and all that other stuff. I'm not gonna get into that. Since then, there's I've hit a number of milestones. Right, one of the latest milestone, of course, was or the biggest milestone I would say I hit 50. Right, since then I'm now 52, and you start thinking about life and you start thinking about shit. I'm 50, and then you think about the whole thing that you get 50, you could die. For men, you could just drop dead anytime, right? So you're like, okay, so how am I going to make sure that I don't drop dead in the next couple of years? Obviously, we're having a new kid, 3 years old. Having to provide for family, kind of starting again. There's a lot more worry and things that come into mind. So in this case, I'm like, okay, so what's the most important raise that you're in your life, right? Is it how much money you accumulate? Is it how much stuff do you have in the end? What should our goal be as humans um to strive for? Is it living um with all the commodities and all the things that you want, cars and money on the bank and houses and boats and all that other stuff? Or is it how long do you actually live, right? Do you really focus too much time on the other things in life and not necessarily the thing that matters the most is how much time do you get? How much time do you get with your family? How much time do you get with your kids? How much that you get with your friends? Isn't that what's important in the end? I think so, but I think it takes a long time for us to realize that. And it takes you getting to that 50-year-old mark for you to finally realize that this is not a game about how much you have, but how much time you have. And how do you spend your time and make sure that, every single second, minute, hour matters, right? So how do you maximize that? And a lot of times we focus on other things. We focus on the job. We focus on the surroundings, and all other things. And you should be focusing on yourself. You be focusing. If you're going to invest in something, you got to invest in yourself, and that's something that I've learned just recently. Right? I've always been a hard worker. I workaholic. I focus on work and I focus on making sure that I provide for my family, right? And I think I do that by making sure that I'm doing I got my shit straight and I'm doing my stuff that I need to do at work. But I'm not focusing as much in the me, in this self, right? And I think at 50 and just recently with some little health scares and issues, I've come to realize finally, I think, after this last one, I've come to realize that self, myself, me, is the important thing. Not saying that I don't care about the other things. Not saying that I don't care about my family, my kids, my wife, but I have to care about myself. And when I started La Condena, I started it because I wanted to talk about things that happen, and like I said, I kind of express myself and let some things out and make some people laugh and tell them about my travels, my other things. But I wanted to take it seriously this time and talk about what's the meaning of life, right? A lot of people, what's the meaning of life? Why are we here in life? And I think I found the answer. The answer is to do what you love and be with the people you love as long as you can. So you gotta put yourself in the center of that to make sure that you gain or stay in the race for the longest. So is it, you know, how do you win at life? Do you win at life because again, your bank has a lot of money, you've accumulated a whole bunch of shit, or is it how long do you get to live, right? And I think that's the most important thing. If I would talk to anybody in my life group of people, nobody's really talking about money per se, right? I mean, you're thinking, yeah, you're gonna retire. How am I gonna live? But if you went and asked them the questions, it's like, does it matter how much money you have, or does it matter how long you live, right? And I think at least my inner circle will tell you that what matters is how long you live. And like I said, you don't realize that too late. Well, not late, but I think I'm not late because I'm only 52. But I'm only 52, but tomorrow I might not be here, right? Shit happens. Shit happens, and you die. And it might be you're crossing the street, or it might be in the Dominican Republic. Whatever. A couple weeks ago, the freaking club fell on a whole bunch of people. So you're having a good time, and then life happens, and then you die. Life is really fragile, right? So that's something that to think about. And I'm not saying this because I'm um, dying or anything like that right now. I mean, we're all dying since the beginning. When we were born, you're dying, right? That's the whole thing. Um, and no, I haven't been diagnosed with anything bad, but I've been put to a place where I now have to make sure that I'm focusing on my health, and I'm focusing on staying alive and being with my family and spending as much time as I can with them. So how do I do that? Right. So let me tell you, right? So you get to 50, you say, well, if you didn't do the colonoscopy already, let's do the colonoscopy, right? You just kind of start with the basics. You do your physicals. And they said do the colonoscopy. I'm like, shit. You always think about, it's gonna be a tube probed into your butt. And that no man has ever said, "Hey, this is great. Let's do it." Right? No, 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 no. So I said, "Hey, what's the other option?" There's this colon guard thing, right? So you get a colon guard that basically sends you a little bassinet that you have to poo on, and you basically think about that's got to be easier than the tube, right? But you never thought about, hey, in my case, I didn't change a lot of diapers. Fortunately, the moms for my kids have been really great, and they all took care of that. I provided the diapers. I changed a couple, but I didn't change a lot of them. Um, so this time you gotta, they send you this cube thing. You put it in the toilet. You're supposed to go. You're supposed to take your excrement, and then you have to like take a sample, put it in a bag while all that stuff is out there. And you're like, maybe this wasn't a great idea. But I did it, you got to do it because colonoscopy is one of the things that, hits a lot of men, right? Especially men of color and men like Latin and all that. So it's important to look at your race and where you're at, and then make sure that you're working through that. So I did it. I put the whole thing in there, put a mask, put some gloves, did the whole thing, put it in a pocket, kind of closed it down, make sure that it's not leaking or whatever the heck it is. Put Pour some water or whatever the heck thing that they put on it, and you send it out. It just happened to go to Wisconsin. I used to live in Wisconsin. I knew exactly where it was going. So that was kind of funny to me that it would go to Wisconsin. Then you wait, a couple 2 weeks, and then you basically log in, and obviously when you send something like that, it's colonoscopy, right? You're hey, you knew you did it, right? And you want to see that negative, so you're kind of clicking on the website, just like when you want to get ticket for your favorite concert band, or you want to get those Jordans that you're going into a um an auction, right? It's the same thing. You're just like clicking on that thing, waiting for the auction to see if you win the auction, right? Unfortunately, when I clicked it, it was negative, right? So great. That's one thing. Well, I'm 50, so now let's do all of the other things that come into mind, right? So you got to do your prostate, right? So fortunately for prostate, they take a blood test for you, and they try to figure out based on your PSA level. They let you know whether they have to do the tactile thing where they stick the finger in your butt again. Why are all the men tests have to deal with your butt? I don't, can anybody explain that to me? Couldn't they come up with some sort of ultrasound or some other crap? Everything, it has to be your butt. So I don't understand what that is. But unfortunately, most of those tests have to deal with your butt. Anyways, so I did all that. That was good. I did a full hormones, every freaking thing you could think of, right? Just to see where I was at. Fortunately, all those things come, negative, or I'm right at the level that I need to be. Even for diabetes, I'm a fat guy, right? So every time that people see me, is like, you're diabetic. No, I'm not. It's just like, you got cholesterol. No, I'm not. So fortunately, there's certain things in my genealogy of my genes from my ancestors that don't have any of that stuff. My mom is diabetic. Obviously, there's still a factor there, but unfortunately for me, I'm not, right. Cholesterol, I don't have any cholesterol. I actually have very low cholesterol in comparison, right. What are some things that came out? Hey, you have a low potassium. I don't eat a lot of vegetables, so that makes sense. So then I started looking, well, what are some of the things that I could do to increase my potassium and get to another level? Well, of course, every time you think potassium, you think bananas. So how many bananas do I have to eat in order to take in the amount of potassium that I should be taking in a day? 19? Shit. Bananas isn't going to make it, right? So, of course, now you're looking at, obviously eating some potassium when you can, and then just putting some supplement, right, to kind of get to that. The other one that was funny, being that I'm from the Caribbean, I live in Florida. I live 15 minutes from the beach, but because I take, we are all inside, right? We all work. If you work from home, or if you're hybrid, or you want to call it, you don't have to drive. You don't have to do anything. You're all day, and you're in Zoom. What happens then? You don't see the sun, right? So vitamin D comes from the sun. I don't take enough sun, so I have a lower than normal vitamin D. So I have to take a supplement for that. Or I could say, hey, every other day I'm gonna go, take a walk at the beach. I don't live that far, and take the sun and do that. Right. I think that's gonna be my new method of doing that. Besides, in the morning walking, because that's another thing I'm gonna have to do. Right. I have to lose weight. I've struggled with weight all my life. I've been fat, I've been skinny, I've been fat, I've been skinny or skinnier. Um, but I think, at this point in life, I have to take it seriously. I have to do it. I have to stop saying, oh, I'll do it next day. I'll do it next week. And one of the reasons why I'm doing this in English, and I have a lot of friends that I know love me and care for me and push me and talk shit to me. And that's why I'm doing it in English, because I know my Spanish friends know English and they're gonna push me and tell me what I need to do. They do it all the time. So, now that I need it, hopefully they're going to help me meet my goal, right? That's to move more, that's to get out there, that's to walk, that's to lose weight, that's to eat more sensibly, and to again try to win the race that matters. What's that race? The race of longevity, right? I think anybody would tell you in the end, all you want is more time. How do you buy more time? You can't, right? Your body is that, and we all neglect it. Many of us neglect it. I don't say everybody neglects it because um, but people focus on different things. I have to say I haven't focused on me, right? I have to focus on me. And when I mean by me, I don't mean by being selfish, being the temple of the person, the body, the person that and talking to you right now. That body has to be helped, and I'm going to do it. I know I can, so I will do it. But you can't regress the stuff that you already kind of done to yourself, right? So the other day, I it's crazy, right? Because after 50 years old, it seems like all this shit starts to happen little by little. There's this comedian in Dominican that talks about um, as after you get to 40 years old, pain doesn't leave, it just changes places. One day it might be your arm that hurts. One day it's your finger that hurts. Day is your head. One day is your neck. It just continues to move. It just seems like every week, every month, there's something different that affects you, that ails you, right? And you're like, shit. I mean, what the hell? I mean, I can't get away from this. As I speak to you, this is my fourth time in COVID. I've had COVID four times already. So from 2020 or 2019, whatever the heck COVID started, you know, 2019, 2020, I've had it four times. Fortunately, it's always been brief, right? The Paxlovid thing that I'm taking right now, it's a medicine that's helped. And the first day, um, so we were at the Disney parks and in Orlando with my family and friends, and there's just a whole bunch of people there, and we were very likely to get sick, whether it's the flu or whatever the heck it is, because you're in close quarters, you're in taking lines all day, and you're with people from everywhere in the world, right? So you don't know. I mean, some people take it seriously and say, "Hey, I got COVID. I'm not going to go anywhere." Or other people say, I don't care. I have it. I'll give it to somebody else. And I get online, and next to you, it's this person that has COVID, and now you have it. Fortunately, the rest of the family did not get it for some reason or the other. Maybe getting to this healthy thing that I'm talking about, I'm going to focus on getting my immune system better, right? I know I can do it, and I will do it. God willing, of course. You can never say you're going to do something, and then God has a different plan for you, and it's over. Yes, I believe in God. Yes, I believe that God helps you, and has a path or a destiny for you. Absolutely. But anyways, so you know the uh, going back to saying that the four every week is something different. And one week, my wife cooked me my favorite meals, which is like French fries and some steak and onions and all this other shit. And sometimes um this time it was delicious, right? And I'm eating it and I'm just talking to her. It's like, hey, this is great. And all of a sudden I say something else and I choke. Basically, whether it's a piece of steak or a piece of French fry or whatever the heck it was, it gets stuck in my body, right? I am significantly bigger than my wife. She's probably 5'2", and I'm almost 6 feet tall, and as big as I am. So she is a doctor, right? So she knows that if I'm choking, I'm not going to be able to breathe and I may just die there. So, and I know enough because in the military, thank God for the military, they teach you how to, you know what, one of the first things they teach you is how to help somebody from choking, right? So you understand that you have to, kind of put some pressure uh, in la boca del estómago. I don't even know how to say that in English, right? And put the pressure so that the item comes out. Or if you're by yourself, you've seen the videos where they tell you like to hit yourself right here so that the pressure comes out. But knowing that I couldn't do any of those things because of how big and tall I am and how my chairs are not tall enough for me to kind of hit myself there, I just got up and, fortunately, my wife was right next to me. And I'm like, hey, I'm choking. So then, she's like, starts going crazy and then just freaking punching me in the back. Right? I mean, literally, like, bam, 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 like really punching me to try and get me to, to just let go of the piece of meat or the piece of fry, whatever the hell it was, to come off of my throat. And at the same time, you're taught not to, even when you're drowning or when you're choking, don't panic. Just think about how are you gonna get this thing off, right? So then I just take water and I just start drinking it and just dropping it all over me, and then I start jumping, right, just to see if I could somehow help the force. And between the punches that my wife was giving me jumping around, and the water, fortunately, it went through. But I've never had the until I turned. So I've had this thing happen twice. Let me just say that. Once it happened, I was driving. So with my wife, I happened to have water there. I got out. This time I was driving, fortunately, which is on a regular road. I came to the side of the road and I just, drank some water. I was able to pass the whatever the piece of ice cream cone that I was eating. Um, and then this second time, right? But it's been since I turned 50. It's like it's the Twilight Zone, or it's the that movie where death doesn't get you, but it's trying to get you every single day. And so it's that, right? It's like any little thing you might die of. So I survived that one. Then the next week, I get a really bad flu, or and I had it for 3 weeks or whatever the heck it was, and I get off of that. I come home. My blood pressure is going nuts, right? So I go to the doctor. It's like, what the hell is happening? Now, this doctor has seen me at least 3 times. So when he sees me, they say, why are you here again? It's like, well, I ate Chinese rice again. I've been telling you, no, you shouldn't be eating soy sauce. Or like, I know, I just, I had a, I had a relapse, right? And I just had to have Chinese rice. I did, and I did. So then, it's, unfortunately, it got me again, right? So the doctor's like, no, 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 no. Now you gotta go see your doctor. That's when I did all the tests and all that other stuff. Because fortunately, whenever I have these things, and I happen to go to the emergency room, and in that case, they did just to make sure I was having a seizure, or uh, ACV, right, on my brain or some shit. They did a CT scan and they checked it out, and no, you don't have anything there. Check my heart. It's not. Nothing's there. Um. So then, I said, okay, fine. I'm gonna stop Chinese food. I'm not gonna eat any more soy sauce. I'm gonna get it straight, right? So then after that, I went through the whole physical, right? They looked at all my values and all my hormones and every freaking thing you could think of. Normal. Like, thank God, right? When you're as fat as I am, the likelihood of that being is not it's not it's very negative prognosis, right? But like I said, I've been fat all my life, so maybe God, that's kind of helped me. I've been fat more than I've been skinny all my life. So I think that helped. But anyways, so then the latest thing that happened to me, it's the other day. Um, I have a foot that was hurting me. I was in Spain, and I walked a lot on and already. I had a plantar fasciitis, which is where you have your foot is flat, and basically, depending on the shoes that you put on, you might have a problem with stepping and then having uh, inflammation in your foot. And I went on a long trip where I had to go to Miami. I had to then go to Spain, and then I asked for a wheelchair uh, assistance. And when I got to Miami, they put me in the wheelchair, and I was like, okay, whatever. It was fun. I looked around. I saw some people and things that I usually never see because I'm running between gate to gate. But in the being on that wheelchair was actually fun just to see the people, what people were to the airport, the type of conversations that you kind of run to that you now have time because you're going slower as they're pushing you. And it was eye opening, the things that I heard and the things that I saw people wear and the things that they were just happening on the airport just to get to my next step. But it took forever, right? So then when I went to Spain, I get to the airport, and I just, as normal as I get out, thinking that when you get out of the airplane, there's going to be a attendant there. In Spain, there is not such thing. You get out, and there's a hallway, and it's a huge hallway. Spain's probably one of the biggest airports that I've had the pleasure to fly in, and now I had to walk because when I went up to the thing and I found the person that actually worked for the airline, I said, "Hey, I asked for wheelchair assistant. Oh, you should have stayed at the airplane because we go pick you up at your seat and we take you." Well, I wasn't that bad. I could just walk. I could have, I thought I could just walk to the outside and then there'd be somebody there. No, now you're gonna have to walk because there's no way for us to get you because you had to stay at the airplane for us to pick you up, and then they take you in a bus and they take you around the airplane. So I walked, and that made my leg even worse. Um, so I walked there, and then I get to Spain, and everywhere that you go in Spain, it's a walk society, right? Yeah, you take an Uber here and there, but you're always gonna have to walk through the stairs, through the monument, through whatever. People don't take lunches in their offices or ask or call Uber Eats. No, no, no. They all have to go out and eat. We had a meeting with 21, 22 people, and they all wanted to go out. It's like by the time we take the 22 people, get down to the elevator, move, walk, I don't know, 7 blocks that they say was right there with my foot that was already bad. By the time I got back to the US, my foot is super, super, super swollen. I go to um, the foot doctor, right? Because in the past, whenever I had that, they kind of give me an injection on one side of my foot, and voila, it goes away. But this time, my foot was totally swollen, and he's like, "There's no way I can inject you because it's the whole foot. I would have to inject you, and that would kill you." Great. Instead, he gives me some pills, and then he gives me naproxen, which is um, something that was going to help with the pain. And the other stuff was like some steroids to make my foot back to normal. So I take the steroids. I take the naproxen a couple times, and he said, "Just take it when you need it for pain." So I took it, made my foot better. Good. I'm out of that one. I don't know. I went to step and I twisted my foot and it was hurting. I said, the other day, I'm like, let me take one of these pills. So I took another naproxen, which is the painkiller. Right. This is a week after my foot had already been good, but then it came back again. So I take that thing, drink it. Um, we had a late dinner. I go to sleep. I wake up like at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I wake up, I sit up, and I tell my wife I don't feel good. I don't feel good means that I think I have an indigestion, right? Because we ate late, and I feel my whole upper body feels warm, but it also feels like I'm indigested, where I have something right here. And my wife's like, hey, I'm telling her what's going on, but I have the handy dandy Apple Watch that, since I have one of my only thing that I have that I've had for years, right, since I was 30 or whatever, it's my high blood pressure. It runs in my both sides of my family, my dad's side, my mom's side. Everybody has high blood pressure, whether they're skinny, whether they're fat, whether they're runners, whether they all have it. So that's one of the things in my gene that's always been there. I know how to control it, right? Which is to stay away from salt because mine is very, very salt driven. So if I take away salt, and in the last, I don't know, 6 months, I've been very, very aware of salt and making sure that I don't need as much salt. So whatever. I take this damn pill. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm feeling warm. And I'm like, okay, let me try my EKG thing, which I've done a number of times whenever I feel like my heart or I feel that my blood pressure is too high or I'm just being paranoid thinking I'm gonna die. And I do the test, which is basically you take your finger, you go like this, you put the app, and then you go wait 30 seconds, and then the thing starts doing the beep 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 thing that you see in the movies when you die, and then it goes flat. I don't know what the heck it's called. I'll ask my wife later. But anyways, I do that, the EKG test, and it's I've done it 500 times before that. It always says EKG is normal, no sign of our arterial fibrillation, whatever the heck it's called. I did it this time. Go in there, and it goes nuts. Tick, 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 tick. And then it goes at the end. It says, "Up, arterial inflammation detected." I say, "Oh shit, I'm having a heart attack." Right? Because I mean, I don't know what AFib means. I just knows that it says, AFib detective. Talk to your doctor soon. So, I tell my wife, we're going to the doctor. Of course, my wife is a doctor. And after the fact, I talked to her and she said, well, I didn't want to make you panic, but everything you described is when you're having a heart attack. But I didn't want to tell you anymore because you were going to get more panicked and then probably died on my arms, right? So, no, no, no. So we race to the doctor. I tell him that I had this AFib thing, right? So they went and looked at it, checked it out, and sure enough, the Apple Watch was right. Um, I was having an AFib. So when you think AFib, I think, well, I'm having a heart attack, right? So it's just that your heart it's not doing what it's supposed to. And in this case, it's palpitating really fast, like I was running, right? That's why my heart was going boom, 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 very fast. Um, they checked me out. They brought me in right away. They did the AKG. They said, yes, you're having an AFib. Yes, your heart rate is going ballistic. I'm not looking at the rate because at least I know, right? My normal rate's in the 60s, 68, 69. If I'm walking, it's in the 80s. The thing was going 150, right? I'm sitting on the thing, but I'm not because they always put those monitors behind you, right? So I wasn't seeing because I would have been panicked, right? But my wife's looking at it and she's not telling me anything. She's like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. She's looking at that after the fact. She said, well, you got an AFib. We're going to give you some medicine and we're going to get your heart back to normal and then we're going to monitor you, right? So then they gave me that thing and they monitor me and, it came, when 30 minutes or whatever, it came back to the normal level. Um, Obviously scary, right? Then of course they did all the blood tests that they ever gonna do. They just to see that I was not having a heart attack or any of that. Fortunately, I was not. Um, but still, the AFib was there. They can tell why. They still can tell me why. They don't know why it happened. It's just it happened, right? And they gave me the medicine. The medicine worked, and it brought my rhythm back to where it needs to be. They monitored me and did more tests, took more blood tests, did a CT scan, to see that I was not having a blockage or anything like that. No blockage, nothing related to the heart that was concerning that I was dying from my heart. Of course, when they do a CT scan, they find a whole bunch of other shit, right? Hey, you got a lot of fat on you, or hey, you gotta watch yourself for this, watch yourself for that. But fortunately, nothing that's telling me that I'm gonna die next week. But with all that and taken into place, I was like, shit, no, I have to take care of myself. I have to change certain things in my life. I've been fortunate that my genetics, right, are helping me, but my mouth isn't. So I need to stop my mouth and I need to start doing more walking. I need to start thinking about myself and I need to start focusing on the well being of me. That doesn't mean that I'm going to let everything else go because I still have to work. I'm not rich. I can't retire tomorrow, but I have to make sure that every single day I look in the mirror and say, hey, it's about you, Ralph. That's all I'm going to say. So there's a lot of other things that I want to talk about. I think I wanted to make this short. It's actually an anniversary of the Condena because like I said, I did it on a Sunday. I think it was 2020, right? 2020 when I started doing this. And I've done it in Spanish, and a lot of my friends ask me, "Hey, Ralph, you got a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, but it's in English. It's in Spanish. It's not in English." So I wanted to do this one, share with some of my friends that haven't seen me in a while. I'm still alive, and I have a new goal in life. That is to win that race, the race of life, right? So I think that all of you should think about that too, and make it your being, right? I know a lot of friends that I have that listen to me a lot. For certain things, I've been a role model. For this one, I'm not. I should follow somebody that I know as a role model. Um, but if you're my friend, I really appreciate my friends. I always love and laugh and we eat together. We do a lot of things together. I just want you to hear my things that are happening to me. And if you have to look at yourself in the mirror, like I'm looking at myself in the mirror today, do it. Because in the end, it's not about money. In the end, it's about how long did you do the things that you love and where were the people that you loved on earth. I think that's the meaning of life. I'm not Socrates, or although my teacher used to call me Socrates because I was pretty smart when I was in whatever fifth or sixth grade. And it's like, I hear Socrates again. Um, but I'm not Socrates. But anyways, but I think if you think about life and you're in this age group and you think about what really matters, I bet that I'm not wrong. It's all about how long you live and how long low can you enjoy the people around you and the things that you love to do. All right. Like I always say it in Spanish. Como siempre, buenas noches, buenos días, buenas tardes y nos vemos en la próxima.